Monday, in a 46-48 vote, the Senate failed to invoke cloture on a federal codification of Roe v. Wade, with Senator Joe Manchin representing the single Democratic no vote against allowing debate on the bill. The House's Democratic majority passed the bill in September.
Meanwhile, after President Biden's State of the Union address last night, Manchin chastised the president for trying to breathe life back into some of his Build Back Better objectives. He told reporters, quote, "They just can't help themselves. I don't know where that came from, and nothing's changed." That was a little bit far, and Manchin sat next to Senator Mitt Romney on the GOP side of the House during Biden's speech, quote, "Remind the American people and the world that bipartisanship works and is alive and well in the U.S. Senate." Joining us now to weigh in is friend of the show, Briahna Joy Gray. She's host of the Bad Faith podcast and former national press secretary for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Briahna, welcome.
Thank you, Ryan.
And so what do you make of Joe Manchin's comment there? Because he has said that he supports a lot of the tax increases that are in Build Back Better, and he supports the energy provisions, which are kind of neutral at this point, but a lot of would end up with clean energy. So he supports all this, but he says, how dare Biden continue talking about these things that allegedly have majority support in Congress? How do you square those two things?
Look, I think Senator Manchin really has his eye on the ball here, insofar as he's keeping track of what America's #1 priority is, which is the kabuki theater of bipartisanship. I mean, this is a man who's sitting with Republicans in the name of this greater theory during the very same State of the Union when Representative Mondaire Jones found himself standing up with his hands akimbo, looking left and right because not a single Republican would applaud the mention of bipartisanship in Joe Biden's speech. So the question is, who are Democrats chasing here still with this idea that bipartisanship is going to be more than passing some of the substantive items on Biden's Build Back Better agenda, or the items that have very quickly fallen off of his campaign agenda, like student debt, which didn't get a single mention in this speech, despite being one of the few things Joe Biden can do without Joe Manchin.
Right, and did you notice he even mentioned the Jill Biden's community college plan, which Jill Biden herself has said publicly is dead?
Dr. Jill Biden.
Dr. Jill Biden.
Jill Biden.
Good doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the speech was a wish list of things that Biden has already demonstrated he isn't able to pass. It would have been a great campaign speech, but the man hasn't been campaigning for a couple of years now. So to the extent that Joe Manchin is pointing out that fact that, hey, he's just reciting a bunch of things that are dead in the water, I can't say that the man is wrong.
Yeah. I thought it was a speech to kind of keep moderate Democrats who are increasingly interested in voting are on board with the project, but it doesn't really matter. Does the State of the Union matter at all? No one's going to remember what he said. We're all going to be talking about something 5 minutes from now. There's a war going on. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think some others in the space have made this interesting point that it does seem like in years past, the State of the Union was a much bigger moment. The people who were picked to give responses to the State of the Union seem to be people who were being set up for a longer political destiny. There was a lot more hubbub about it. It seems like something has happened. Something has shifted in the last few years. I don't know if it was something that happened in the Trump era, or it doesn't seem to have the same significance anymore. I didn't see hardly any coverage of the people who were giving their responses. There didn't seem to be any indication that this is who the Republican Party is picking to be next up at bat. We are perhaps still just firmly living in the Trump era, where everyone else is a filler until then. And the idea, frankly, that you are going to get some nameless, faceless moderate who's always invoked in these situations on board by simply giving a milquetoast recitation of your campaign promises, well, that might have worked in a world where we were just trying to beat Trump, defeat Trump, and all Biden had to do was stand there and be straight of limb, as my grandmother says. But we're past those days. And right now we're in a continued economic crisis. There is this figment that COVID is not still affecting people's lives in meaningful ways. And I'm not sure that anybody watching felt like anything that was said at the State of the Union really connects with their lives.
Yeah, I don't know. On the other hand, though, in defeating Trump, is an important goal if you're a Democrat, right? And the likelihood of defeating Trump seems to be going down every minute for Joe Biden, frankly. Like his poll numbers are cratering. Things just look better and better for the Republicans. Donald Trump looks pretty likely to make a run at it, as far as I can tell. So I don't know. Why shouldn't that be a pretty sizable concern at this point?
Well, if you want to beat Trump, I have a couple of suggestions. Like, I don't know, doing something so that you have something on your legislative record by the time the next election rolls around. And what could he do? I don't know, a couple of things that David Dayen, for example, has listed on his executive order tracker sheet, which include, I don't know, canceling student debt for 44 million Americans. That's 44 potential voters that you could give a significant boon to by simply crossing off the debt that they owe the federal government on that balance sheet. Just a couple ideas. I don't know. I don't work for the government.
There's such a level of incompetence in the fact that there was so much they did agree on in that package that they could have touted, that they have just let completely collapse. And here we are. Like, the only thing they're going to be able to run on is that they actually kind of increased child poverty after 2021. Briahna, did you happen to watch Kim Reynolds, by the way, the Iowa Republican governor who gave the response?
I confess I did not.
I watched it. It was very forgettable.
It was, yes. You might actually have watched it and don't remember, because it was just an absolute kind of black hole of charisma.
I want that white noise machine.
Yes.
I don't sleep well anymore.
It was, and
Go ahead.
No, it reminded me of why Democrats never do anything, because the other party is so awful also. And so all Democrats have to do to get back into power is lose the power they have now, let the Kim Reynolds of the world take over, or the Donald Trumps of the world, who then really fire up the Democratic base, and the public gets so frustrated with it.
Republicans are not really
let's go back to the last people.
If they take that Mitch McConnell was mad that Scott put forth a plan to theoretically do something. No,
like, what are you doing?
Right, and where does that leave the American people in all of this? We have to keep in mind that there is a version of this State of the Union that would have been incredibly spicy, incredibly interesting, and incredibly motivating to the general public. It's a version of events where Joe Biden is actually honest about who has thwarted an agenda that, to your point, is overwhelmingly popular. A State of the Union where Joe Biden calls out Joe Manchin sitting with Republicans from the dais and talks about the fact that Democrats in his district voted for him to pass a Democratic Party agenda, and instead he's sitting on his yacht, just like so many Russian oligarchs that he's now trying to sanction. But that is not the version that we got.
So we didn't even talk about, so what are the implications of this, the failed vote on the Women's Health Protection Act? What is your...
Which failed by, 14? Like, it wasn't as if it came close.
Yeah, they needed 60 votes. No one anticipated that they were going to get anywhere close, and of course they didn't. I mean, what this really brings up for me is all of the lost opportunities in years past during the Obama administration, when they did have the votes ostensibly, although rotating villain says that there will always be someone to obstruct at the 11th hour. But years past, where we had so much potential to do the big ticket things that Democrats say are so important, like protecting the right to choose, and they choose not to again and again. So this, I think, is just another demonstration of why there's such a lack of confidence and faith in the Democratic Party and our political institution generally speaking, because issues like the right to choose, big ticket economic issues like a $15 minimum wage are only batted about as these kind of symbolic gestures or tools to bully people to the voting booth every 2 to 4 years, the way that voting rights, for example, has been brought up in the context of the State of the Union speech, to bully people to the polls every 2 to 4 years. And it's all a big game of a big shell game where they don't want you to keep your eye on the things that Joe Biden can actually do, or there are people who are preventing him from doing it. And so people just become disaffected, broadly speaking.
Yeah.
Yep, sounds about right.
Yep.
Well, what more
it's a beautiful day in D.C., though, guys.
Yeah.
It sure is. It sure is.
Briahna, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you both.
We'll be back with more Rising right after this.